Good afternoon, everyone. Very pleased to see you here. My name is Lucy Noble. I'm from AEG Presents, and I am moderating this panel, which is called A Greener Tour Round 5. So this is my first touring panel. I've been previously on the venues panel, so I'm freshest, but we've got a few old hats and some new people, and we'll introduce you to them in a minute. I'm quite interested to know, are we going to be talking about the same things in round 5 that we have for the last 4 panels? We'll find out. For me, going from a venue to being a promoter most recently in recent years has been very interesting for lots of reasons, but in terms of the sustainability side of things, particularly interesting. So we're going to talk about the good things that have happened, the challenges, what we want to happen, and then some questions at the end, if you have any. Right, before we kick off, these lovely people are just going to introduce themselves very briefly. I'll start with you, Vanessa.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Govinden, so I'm here under Offshoot Tours, which is a company I co-founded with my business partner JJ down there. And we represent women, POC and queer TMs and drivers, eventually hoping to build diverse tour crews. So that's what I've been doing, and then on the side I'm a musician as well, and we'll be chatting later about a funding project we're doing with Oya Festivalen, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Christof?
Hello, my name is Christof Huber. I'm the chairman of YOUROPE, the European Festival Association. We are, I think, also here in this conference quite active with our Green Operations Group since many, many years. I'm a promoter in Switzerland. We are doing 6 festivals, hundreds of booked and promoted shows, and we are also a management company. And we created a tool for our company Gadget called Green Gadget, which is a sustainability program for over the whole company. So I'm trying to establish that in all sectors of our company.
Thank you. Richard?
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Burnett. I'm the Managing Director of KB Event. We are a trucking and logistics services company that is based in both the UK and the EU. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of the insights from some of the things that we've done over the last year.
And Jamal?
Hi, I'm Jamal Chalabi. I have been a tour manager, production manager for 30 years. And I am head of a greener tour for A Greener Future. I'm also part of the Live Green advisory panel, and I'm currently tour manager for Massive Attack.
Thank you. So, we always have these kind of pre-meets before we do these panels, and it's interesting because we know that there are always challenges with touring, acts, artists, shows, whatever you're touring. But we thought today that we would start off with some positives, because there are positives and strides forward have been made. So we're going to start about what's been really good, talk about what's been really good and successful over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. Because I think it's really important to share the successes and rev us on to, fight the challenges that are yet to be overcome. Jamal, can I start with you, talking about the positives, what's gone well?
Well, for me, the positive was just the honour of working with Massive Attack, who basically gave me the keys to the car for the sustainability. They just let me do whatever we could do. So we put a lot of initiatives in around the actual touring, all the basic headline stuff like getting HVO fuel into our buses and into our trucks. We also, we used EV vehicles wherever we could, which was fantastic. We had a real close look on our logistics. Got flights down to, not a bare minimum, but as little as we could. We did a lot of train journeys, which worked out really, really well. It was, the guys are of a certain age, and being kettled in an airport was something they were very, very over, and getting on a train was a beautiful thing. So we did a lot of European trains, and that worked out really, that was really, really positive. And then going on from that, it was, I think the other thing, the most positive thing about it was the contract clauses we did. I had a lot of, I suggested to management, I had a long list of things that I wanted to put within the contract, a lot of toing and fro with the agent on that one, but we eventually got it in as an appendix onto the contract, and it was almost like a questionnaire with the festivals. And that was met, surprisingly, really positive with all the festivals. So in all my advancing, we started having this really, really positive dialogues with all these festivals right across Europe. Not only, you know, what we would like to see as when we arrive, but also the feedback of what they were already doing. So it was really good for them. It was a really good opportunity for them to actually sing their success and show examples and share that with us. Because I think the difficult they were seeing is that, yes, we want to do all this sort of stuff, but it's really difficult because obviously they get hit with all these different riders and all these different expectations. So it was really kind of working out how the handshake of an incoming production will handshake with a festival production to make sure that it's harmonious. So that was really, really positive. Talk to those guys and get some really, really great feedback and encouraging them to use their influence, you know, and position. Like, you know, Monterey Jazz Festival, it's a global label. Use that power to push this forward. So that was, I'd say, was a very positive thing for me.
Okay. Thank you. Richard?
I think it's been a really positive year. I think, look, we've worked with Jamal for quite some time as a business, so it's really good working with a sort of production team that is, you know, so can do, that really wants to get stuck in, that wants to make a difference. I think for me, being part of 1.5, helping to support and deliver that, it was an incredible step change, I think, for all of us, because there were a lot of people that doubted that we could do some of this stuff. And, you know, we created battery tankers that effectively were looping from Stroud back into Bristol Downs to support the festival. And there were some challenges with that, but it was a kind of team coming together that had a common goal and a common aim to really make this work, even against the people that were doubting it. You know, you need a backup, you need a generator. Well, no, we don't. And actually, we proved collectively as a team that if you get the right people in the room, you start to talk, you can make these things happen. And I think that's a really big positive step change in the right direction.
Amazing, absolutely, thank you. Christof?
I think the speed of festivals working on sustainability just is faster and faster. And a few years ago, you were like doing on advertisement what you are doing, and you try to highlight this. This is a new normal. You have to do it anyway. I think there's a green roadmap which we created as well. And in 2030, things will change. I think a lot of festivals are proactive in that sense. I think we're, if I look at our events, we included mobility from the whole of Switzerland to our festival. We're right now waiting for approval of having solar panels on all the stalls on the festival side to produce our own power. So a lot of things happened, I think, but we talk about that. I think the last remaining spot is getting closer to the artist to talk about the solutions for younger bands, but also the bigger bands to exchange this information of green riders.
Yeah. Vanessa?
So with Offshoot Tours, as a small company, we've only been running for about a year. This time last year, we were on the ITER International Touring and Environmental Responsibility Programme. And it was done by Julie's Bicycles and Arts Council England. And it was a really intense programme. And we met some organisations from Denmark and Norway. And we were just talking about sustainability touring. And a lot of the other organisations were theatre backgrounds, dance companies, and we were the only ones on there who work in contemporary music. And we managed to work with, we met Maya, who was the sustainability officer at Oya Festival and on that programme. And we worked together and we put a proposal to trial out a sustainable tour in an electric van for this August. So yeah, we've got the funding, and Oya Festival in Crowder over there, hello. So we're working on that. We've secured an artist, so we're working with a band and their manager. We're planning out the tour. and it's going to be a 10-day tour, and then we're going to record it, make a short film, and using that hopefully kind of educate, share that information with other tour managers who work at a similar level with us, and possibly band managers and booking agents, just to, you know, see if touring on our kind of lower scale, like if it's feasible, is it viable, and looking at time and costs. So yeah, that was a positive for Offshoot, was able to get this funding.
It's an interesting point when you say about sharing the success or people learning from it so that other people can follow. And do you think, from all the positive things you've all done this year, you know, at 1.5 being a big one, do you think other festivals will follow in those footsteps and think, actually, if they can do it, we can do it? I know certainly at AEG, you know, BST, we try to be as green as possible, and I know that Lido is going to be massively similar to 1.5. But do you feel like, you know, collectively that other people in the industry will learn and follow in the footsteps?
I certainly hope so. I mean, the signs are definitely there. I think what was interesting for me at the Downs, which was, yeah, again, very, very positive, was that there were certain players there who were doing it. They were like, yeah, okay, fine, this is what's on the bill, so we'll play along and whatever, but weren't hugely supportive. And it wasn't until after what we'd done and had hit the press and hit the New York Times that the sponsors started ringing the agents up in America. And that's when the phone started ringing, because the money was calling, which was really interesting. But it was the money that was funding the industry. So that was a really interesting point. So yeah, but look, as far as it following, yeah, absolutely. I know that we're looking to expand and do Lido and do further. I think the learning that we did at the Downs will, you know, definitely put us in good stead to do that. I'm scared to repeat what was done on the previous meeting, so I'm going to try not to repeat everything we said. But yeah, definitely that we've got, no, I wouldn't say a template, but we can definitely do the same, and probably better from that as well.
Yeah. No, I quite agree. I think it's very important.
Yeah, and I think just to touch again, I know this has been mentioned before, is that, you know, what we weren't doing was brain surgery. It's pretty straightforward. In fact, sustainability is pretty straightforward. We all know what we need to do. We just need to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the simplest of it, really. And that's and same with the festivals, you know. But it's again where the money comes from and creating that model, which I know we'll touch on.
And we're going to talk about money
later.
A bit later, finances. And I think there's been other thing, you know, people have been hired in green positions. I know at AEG we have a director of sustainability. The Live group now have sustainability clauses, which the whole industry are supposed to adopt. The O2 has a green rider, which I know you worked on, Jamal. And so it's about those pieces coming together as well from all areas of the industry to support the touring. So I think it's good. I think it's good. However, it doesn't come without its challenges. And we are going to talk about that and what has been difficult and what still needs to change. And Richard, I'm going to come to you first to talk about trucking.
Thank you.
And I don't know anything about trucking, but you're obviously clearly an expert. But I know there's huge challenges.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the journey to net zero, you know, we're facing lots of different challenges. There's the cost challenge. There's the infrastructure challenge. There is the challenge, you know, around the performance of the vehicles that we're looking at. We've got the skills challenge as well. But you know, I guess combined with all of that, you've got this mindset change that people really need to kind of consider and think about. You know, for us in terms of trucking, we're very passionate about driving that step change. You know, we've been working with Jamal using HVO for some time now.
Do you explain what HVO is?
So HVO is hydrogen treated vegetable oil, and even that's changing because actually renewable diesel is coming from lots of different things that are being recycled, like tires, for instance. You know, now but you know that's it's so much greener than the normal diesel. You know, in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, you know, it's something like 90 to 94% cleaner than diesel. And with our Euro 6 trucks, it's the cleanest way to actually transport goods at the moment. But we're on that journey to EV, to battery, and the manufacturers are committed to driving that change. Government in the UK is, committed to a date of 2040 for that change. But we've got all of the challenges in terms of, batteries, battery size, infrastructure in terms of where we're going to charge it. The cost of effectively buying an EV truck is something like £400,000 versus £150,000 at the moment in terms of a tractor unit. So that massive investment, when you haven't got the infrastructure in place, is a real challenge to move towards using EV. And to give you an example, in the UK, we have 500,000 trucks in the UK market at the moment. There are only 500 EV trucks currently. So we've got this challenge to invest in technology to actually move forward. But that step change from a cost perspective, who wants to pay for that? Where's that going to come from? Because the cost of actually investing in that equipment and then having the infrastructure to support it, and let's face it, at the moment, EV is more expensive in the networks where we charge, but it's something like 60% more than diesel and some of the other I guess fuels that we're using. But it's going to take that kind of commitment and support from government to really drive significant change and move faster, I think. So we're facing those challenges, we're trying to embrace them, we're trying to move forward. But I think everyone needs to play their part in understanding that being sustainable to a degree costs. I know there'll be a bit of a debate and argument with Jamal in a minute about that. But certainly for us, in terms of that initial step change, it's a big cost.
Well, it's really hard if you've just invested in a lorry, a truck that is using petrol or diesel, and then you're told it's best to go EV, but it costs 60% more to run it. It's difficult, isn't it? A difficult argument to make financially. Yeah, no,
and look, the big issue that we face, certainly in terms of live touring, is that we've got to travel long distances in a very short space of time to be able to hit some of the venues that we're needing to get to and from. We had a client that asked us to effectively use an EV truck to go from the UK to Barcelona in the next week or so. It was going to take us 10 days to get there. We did all the mapping, we looked at the charging, the infrastructure where we could charge, and obviously the range of the truck. And at this point in time, that technology has not moved on sufficiently fast enough. It will do, but at the moment it hasn't. And that's another challenge, in terms of what we're facing in terms of this step change from where we are at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. I mean that's fascinating facts and figures around that, and it is a barrier, isn't it, without a doubt. Christof, we'll move on to the artists. How much of a challenge do you think the artists are or not?
Well, I think, as a festival, we invested and did a lot in the past years, as I said, towards the audience. Mobility was the biggest topic, to get rid of parking lots, reduce them, having public transportation, investing in better food, more vegetarian, vegan, et cetera. But I think where it comes to the third party, and of course this is the difficulty, what can we ask? How do we communicate? If everybody runs individually throughout Europe on a touring scale, some of the headliners, some of the mid-size acts, younger bands, what can we ask in terms of greener touring and green riders? And I think in this sense, it's just very important, and I think it's one of the missing points still, that we need to talk to each other between production side and festival side, promoter side, to find the right answers, to right clauses, not to be offended, or not to ask for things which are not realistic. At least I think a lot of the festivals would be very open, but are still a missing communication. And for us, the same challenges with the venues where we promote shows. Some of the venues are, they get it, they know what to do, they are quite modern in that sense. Some of the clubs and and venues are not. And it's quite a challenge for a promoter to define new standards if you have to talk to a third party where you don't have the control.
Yeah. So I would say the artists are very strongly responsible for ensuring that their tour is delivered sustainably, because they are the ones that design the tour and say, I want this and I want that. So I think it has to come from the artists. Jamal disagrees with me on this.
Well, no, I don't disagree with you. I think the artists have particular roles. I think we all have our role in it.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the artist is really good at messaging to the audience.
Right.
They're good about changing culture, cultural mindsets. That's what they're good about. That's what music does. It's emotive. It changes their mindsets. And I think what we need to do on an industry side, we need to create a baseline of sustainability. So all the festivals and all the venues, as you were saying, Christof, or alluding to, need to have a certain level of what they're doing, you know, whether it be, you know, plugged into the grid, you know, using battery technologies, no single-use plastic, vegan food, all this sort of stuff needs to be set. It seems to be, as you said, the normal. But I think the artist's role, it isn't the artist to dictate how we run our business or how everybody runs their business, but it's their business to you know, communicate to their audiences and change culture. The difficult thing is that most of those artists don't want to stick their head above the parapet in this modern day.
And you think maybe that's because they may get accused of greenwashing if they do, or can.
Yeah, absolutely. On accused of anything. In social media nowadays, whatever you do, you can get ripped apart. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And their management companies and their agents and the infrastructure around them are there to protect them to do that. They want their success. So, you know, anything that's going to be, you know, detract from that is a danger, and sticking your head above the parapet is difficult.
Yeah,
you know, and on the money side, I think the one thing is amazing that it's amazing that we still think we have a choice to deal with sustainability. People still think, oh, shall we or shall we not? We really don't have a choice. We have to deal with it. It has to be part of every single conversation.
Yeah.
And the thing about the cost of it is that, you know, you've got to step back 10 paces. Yes, it's going to cost us now, but if we don't, how much is it going to cost us? I mean, look at LA. You know, it's how much is it already costing the music industry? Whenever I talk about sustainability, the first question is, yeah, but how much is it going to cost us? It's like, yeah, but if we don't do this, what's it going to cost? Because we will be the first out. This industry will be the first out, just like the pandemic. We're the first out the door.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, as you said. You know, we need to be proactive because the laws will come. You know, I think for a lot of the promoters as well, this will be a problem. You know, probably they can't cope with it. Other industry the same way. I think the more proactive and forward we are, the better it is. It makes life easier afterwards. And I think this constant development needs some investment. Promoter side as well, of course. Partly audience side, because it might have an effect on ticketing, but I think they're prepared to do this if you communicate in a transparent way. At least that's my experience, and I think then you can really change things and move things forward. Sometimes, in our case, in terms of mobility, our state and city, they investing now, or they help us right now to cover the costs. Because we just did it. We invested the money. We made the step, and we can't go back.
Yeah.
You know, you made it. You have to go forward.
Yeah. I'd like to speak about the grassroots a bit with Vanessa, because I think it's actually a real challenge for financial reasons, actually, but other reasons, when you're kind of just starting out, whether it's a smaller venue or a new baby artist. And can you just talk about your challenges, because I think it's so important. It's such an important piece of the network that young artists or smaller venues are able to participate in sustainable actions, but I think it's really hard for them at the moment.
Yeah, hearing about, I feel like the bigger the artist is and like the bigger their following, they can put those messages out. You know, it's like Billie Eilish was saying about people stop buying vinyl. We don't need to use all that plastic. Whereas, you know, you get like a small DIY band who rely on selling their vinyl to make, you know, to sell at the gigs to be able to afford to go on tour. So the kind of artists and bands we're working with, it's really difficult. Like, they're so overwhelmed. Like, they get a manager, they get a booking agent, they get a PR person, they start building their little team, but they don't know who's who does what, because it's so overwhelming. And it's the same when they go on tour and they go into these small like capacity venues, like 150, 200, like the Shacklewell Arms or something, like do their first little headline show. And it's like the artist is just there to play their show. They're being told by their manager, if they have a manager, like, you just need to do this. The venue is struggling to keep their doors open. So at all those levels, like, no one there's thinking about sustainability, unfortunately. It's like everyone there's thinking about how to make ends meet. Again, with the bands and artists, a lot of them are working jobs, they're studying, they have to take time off to be able to go on tour. So they will be looking for the quickest and most effective route to do that tour. So when it comes to sustainable touring again, it's like they don't have 4 weeks to go on a train tour through Europe, because of emissions. So I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. It's like, how do we help these young, or not even young, but even if they're up and coming, they've been doing this for 10 years, and they're getting bigger and playing bigger places, and they're taking a bus now on tour. It's like, how do we change that mindset? Because everyone that's working with them, just wants to do things quick and easy, get their mates in, and they won't do the research. Yeah,
because they're just trying to make it all work.
This is it. It's like they've got a plan, they've got to do it, but no one's thinking outside the box, or no one's having that conversation with them about sustainability. Even looking at the riders to be like, do you need all this stuff on your rider? Like, it's going to be a waste. Bring a reusable bottle. Make sure the venue has like a water fountain. If you need to charge up your van, like there's an electrical charge point. Some of it, again, these small venues don't have that infrastructure. They don't have a charging point. They don't have a water fountain. They don't even have a recycling bin sometimes. So that's what I'm seeing on this level with going out on tour. I think every party involved with the artist has a responsibility, and they need to be having these conversations together. So
it's a challenge, isn't it? And
it's
there's
a
still
huge
a lot
challenge.
of work to be done at that level.
Yeah,
for sure. Anyone else got anything to say on the grassroots area, or no? Vanessa, you've covered it all.
I think there needs to be I would say a network within the festival community across Europe to help them, like having a grassroots stage at every single festival and routing that tour, just making it so much easier for them. Yeah. I think that there needs to be help with them not needing to carry so much back line, so they could go by train, that sort of stuff. So there's almost like a generic small stage at say 10 festivals across Europe where this network can just tour, take alternative weekends and stuff. But that needs to be thought about. I also think that I've had the privilege of working with BST, and we take really pride in looking after all acts, but there's a lot of festivals out there that don't, and you're almost just an inconvenience as a small band at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, with all due respect. But I think they need to be looked after, because as always, it's cliche, but today's support is tomorrow's headliner, and they need to be looked after.
I think we all quite agree.
But we need to make it easier for them.
Yeah. So one on the to-do list. Just quickly on venues. So I worked at the Royal Albert Hall for many years, and then I became a promoter. And at the Royal Albert Hall, we had all the infrastructure in place, full sound system, full lighting system, so that actually you could come in. By the time I left, most visiting productions were using all of our sound and our lighting. And then when I became a promoter, I just hadn't realised that, for example, the arenas really have nothing. So I just didn't. And so trucking around everything, including the trusses to hang stuff off, I was quite shocked. And for me, that's an obvious kind of win on the venues. I know it's not that simple, because it's not a one-size-fits-all in the arenas. But it was such a stark difference. There was some obvious work to be done. And also, I've worked in multiple venues now up and down the country. I don't think any of them yet have said sustainability is really important to us, and this is, you know, this is how we like to deal with it. It just isn't a topic of conversation. And I thought that was really interesting. It's still not, I think they probably talk about it internally, and it is a priority on the list along with ED&I and the other topics like that. But there's no conversation to be had at the moment about how we're going to make your tour more sustainable. Obviously, as a promoter, we need to be thinking about that, but it needs everyone in the, you know, the food chain, as it were, to be on board with it and talking about it, because we need to work together. And you know, back to the artist thing, it can't just be the artists saying this is what I want to do. Everyone needs to be on board at every level, every part of the jigsaw puzzle. And so that is definitely missing in my mind. But make great strides with things like the green riders that the venues are doing. And that's
the plug and play it's a great idea, and you know it can work in principle.
Yeah.
The issue is that we're caught up in this arms race of production. You know, every production everybody still has to be bigger and better and bigger and better. You know, so you know we're sitting here talking about 4 trucks, 10 trucks, but you know it goes up to over 72 to 100 trucks. You've got trucks that are leapfrogging each other to make the build for the next venue, which is insane. So it's really difficult. But then that's the audience expectations as well.
Yeah.
But you know, for arena level, yes, it would be ideal to have a plug and play, and you just show up with a few specials and your control. But it's really about the creativity of the artist and getting their management to get on board with that, so they can understand what their creativity and within limits of what we have at the venues and working now. I think it's going to be harder work, but you know that would be the way forward.
Yeah.
But stadiums is a different matter. Because stadiums, you can't do that. You have to bring in, because stadiums are a multi-purpose venue. So, you know,
Yeah, I understand that. It's got about 8 minutes left, and we do have to finish at 4. So, just quickly, finances, Christof. I work at AG, multi-billion-pound company, so we can hire the person to do the full-time job and invest in BST and Lido and in the way. But is it just those richer organisations at the moment that can properly engage in sustainability? Because all the things Richard was saying as well about the cost of, trucking and all the things we discussed, is there a financial barrier to be able to act in a sustainable way?
It depends. I mean, we are quite a big company in Switzerland. As I said, we're doing lots of things, and we have 2 people working on sustainability all year long, because this is the plan, and it's still not enough. It will be way more work to do. And as I said, one of the challenges is if you look at, for instance, like the Swiss market, the main shows are all in Zurich, in these different venues, but every venue operates in a different way. There's one venue which requires a mobility ticket within the ticket to go there for free within the ticket. The other one not. So I think these talks in between that would even help to coordinate certain things, because if we have to deal with all the venues to organize and let's say try to put through our ideas of green touring and green concerts, it's difficult, and I think this coordination within markets is very important, and it means also costs, because we would be quicker if everybody would act a bit coordinated in this sector. But again, I think a small club can do things in the same way. But I think we as a big promoter attracting, 500,000 people a year, of course we have to invest more in that.
Yeah. And Richard, you've spoken a lot about this already, but would you agree that there is a financial barrier?
I think there is a barrier, but I think there is a mindset change. And I think we're beginning to see that mindset change. And I think what's also interesting for me, if I can compare the corporate side of what we do, because we do large-scale corporate events across Europe, those big corporate businesses are kind of buying into that change very quickly. It's only working with, production managers like Jamal, who have that determination to really drive this and argue the points around the cost differentials at the moment. And I think that take-up from a music perspective is less than the corporate side of things. But I think we're beginning to see it. And, you know, when we're quoting, we'll quote HVO, we'll quote with diesel so that people can make a decision. But, you know, the cost of HVO usually switches people off at this stage. That's the reality of the situation. But, you know, on that journey to net zero, where we're going to face bigger investment to do this in a cleaner and greener way in the future.
They're not taking into consideration of their carbon responsibility. It's like, okay, I burn this much diesel, therefore I need to remove this much CO2, and that's going to cost me this. Or I just buy HVO and not make the CO2. So the HVO is actually cheaper if you're considering your CO2 responsibility. Yeah. And the CO2 responsibility is something that we all need to start thinking about, and that's something that will come down in legislation. You know, as I said, we all know what we need to do, and that's stop using fossil fuels and stop making CO2. It's like we need to wake up to it and start paying for our responsibility.
Yeah. Okay. Very quickly, because I just want to open up for questions briefly at the end. I'm going to go through each panellist. Can you tell me, from your perspective, kind of your area, what would be the key thing that you would like to see move forward in the next 12 months to keep this positively moving forward? Vanessa, you can go first.
I'm going to stay with like the small actions. I think there's a lot of like educating, sharing knowledge, knowing where to find that information. And just keeping those conversations going, and keeping it small, like from the bottom, like basically education, and then that will prepare, you know, the artists and the tour crews we're working with, like to start thinking about sustainability on tour. So I'm going to go with like baby steps and like being compassionate about where people are at and in learning on their sustainable journey, basically. So we'll keep it, that way.
Okay, which is very important. The baby steps are really important. Christof?
I think I would love to see more exchange between the production side of artists and the festivals and promoters, to work on green riders on the whole level. I think to really make this a normal thing, having certain standards at our festivals being accepted by artists, and vice versa. That would be a missing piece right now over the whole market.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
I think taking the template from 1.5, sharing that, making sure that people actually understand how we can do this, how we can do it more, how we can do it collectively. And I think the other side of this is about government buying into supporting that financial step change for us to go greener faster.
Yeah. Jamal?
Grid connections at festivals, just getting local authority to get grid in there as quickly as possible, cutting the red tape, getting it done, and renewable energies at all our venues.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone. We've got 2 minutes for some questions, if anyone has any questions for any of our panellists. Right, we've got?
Hi guys.
Hi.
I'm Robert from Zenobi. Nice to meet you. We do electric trucks, and we've worked a lot with the trucking industry in the UK, and a lot of people say, no, we can't do it. We need a truck that can drive from Land's End to John O'Groats. But what we've found is if you target specific applications, so distribution centres going into cities, concrete deliveries which are limited in their radius of delivery, or waste management, kind of depot-based things, you can very easily electrify with little extra cost. Is there a touring region or area that is limited to city, shorter distances that could be tackled, rather than saying we need to tackle all possible forms of tour before we can start investing in electric vehicles?
The simple answer is logistics is what we do. And it's all about planning. I took the first electric vehicle out in 2021 with James Bay and did a tour up and down the country. We did 2,500 miles. And I had to think about £1,000 in the budget, and I ended up spending 100 because I found so much free energy everywhere. It's about planning. Interestingly enough, I use a chauffeur company which has just changed its whole fleet to EVs, and not because they're very green. It's just that they don't have to service the vehicle so often. So actually saving money by not having to service the vehicles. I think from your question, it's a simple planning. There's a trucking company that you and I have both worked with, who've just got a contract with the NHS, because the NHS have gone, right, all our deliveries in London, the deliveries are diesel trucks, it's causing, pollutants. Let's just go to the source because we're having to deal with all these lung issues. Let's just cut that out from our share and just use electric vehicles. So they've actually removed their pollutants at source because they don't have to deal with any more, reduce the amount of lung problems they have. So yeah, absolutely. It can all be done.
And Robert, we are working very closely with Volta at the moment. We're working in London. We've got an operation down here, which is ideal for that kind of radial distribution where we can, switch that on pretty quickly. The longer distances are a bit more of a challenge.
Great to hear, thank you.
Can I do one more question? Yeah. I think we've got one, just this gentleman here.
Hi, my name's Olaf. I run Wide Events in Scotland, and we work a lot with grassroots artists. We run a 12-month talent development program, and this question is really for you, Vanessa. I mean, last weekend we ran an event for under 26s, and there were touring bands that were just going, we are so skint, and every tour costs us so much money. So I'm really interested in terms of what would be the 3 most impactful things you would recommend to grassroots artists if you could say 3 things that would really have a major impact, but which they could do without it costing them lots and lots of money.
Like Jamal said about planning, I think a lot of planning and budgeting. I think younger artists and with their managers, they need to just be really careful with their money and see where they're going. Big thing is merch. Going with an ethical merch company, making like good quality cotton t-shirts. Fans will buy that, and that will help the bands with like their touring costs. And then a third one, Jojo, can you think?
I would say green riders across the board. We always get like riders that can only afford carrots and
hummus, yeah, carrots and hummus.
Like, it's really basic and it seems silly, but we honestly are still experiencing that. We've been musicians for like over 15 years and it's still that standard. Like, why? You can provide a hot meal as a green rider. So to request that would be really important. Sorry, I might be a little bit late. That's okay.
Okay. I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. I think we could go on for ages. But thank you so much to our brilliant panellists. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next year for round 6.